So, we've all had that nag quiet try. You look at someone else and say, what if, well, for most of the way we practiced, we often got memory without really plotted for repeating that ask. We were kind of convinced, putting in the hours that, and look where that off frustrated duck. Not because we're inherently flawed, it actually, so our mission to expose barrage of progress and crucial, because, what our deep dive into these ideas shows is that it isn't magic. It's not just for a few and yeah, we'll get into some uncomfortable truth, definitely, but we're also going to lay out a really powerful framework thinking how you learn. Okay, so let's unpack what often feels scarier than just failing, making everything you think and still seeing no real improvement. That feeling, that sense you're moving forward, but not, that's crushing.
Oh, absolutely. It's really insidious how that creeps in. At first, maybe it just feels unfair,
Yeah.
But then it kind of normalizes for a lot of people. You start to internalize it. You tell yourself, well, I guess I just don't have the talent, or my mind isn't wired that way, or I'm just not cut out for this. But a core insight here is that the real issue often isn't some lack of ability. It's that, well, basically, no one ever really taught you how to learn well.
That's such a critical distinction. So if sheer effort isn't the main problem, what is it about a lack of direction that makes it so much more dangerous?
Well, because without that clear direction, you easily confuse just doing something with actual progress. Think about it like this. Repeating the same action 1,000 times, but never correcting any of the mistake. That's not really learning, is it? It's more like, well, one source called it a sentence.
Yeah.
You're just putting in time, reinforcing whatever you're already doing, not genuinely growing.
And it sounds like it's even worse than just stagnating. If you're practicing without real intention, without structure, without experiencing what you called real pain, or getting feedback that actually, bothers you, highlights your flaws, you're not just spinning your wheels, you could actually be making yourself worse over time.
Exactly. Your brain is incredibly efficient. It wants to automate things. So if you keep practicing mistakes, your brain diligently reinforces those mistakes, turns them into habits.
Wow. So essentially, every day you train badly, you're not just wasting time. You're actively sabotaging yourself, building a deeper rut. Okay, so if the way we're often trained sets us up for failure, what's the alternative? Where do we go from here? This seems to be where deliberate practice comes into the picture. And you're saying it has basically nothing to do with innate talent.
Right? Deliberate practice is really the mechanism to break that cycle.
Yeah.
And it absolutely demands those key things: intention, structure, that real pain, meaning real effort, pushing your limits, and crucially, feedback that bothers you. It's less about how smart you think you are and much more about how you actually structure your learning, how you face up to your mistake, and how you train your mind to handle the discomfort that genuine change brings. And this lines up perfectly with what we know about the brain, actually. Neuroscience shows that our brains physically change when we're challenged, when there's that tension, that struggle, not just through mindless repetition. It's that intentional effort pushing just beyond your current ability that drives neuroplasticity of the brain, rewiring it.
So learning something really new, it isn't just like adding files to a computer. It's more like destroying old versions of yourself. You have to break down those old pathways to build better ones. And yeah, let's be honest, that can feel pretty uncomfortable, maybe even scary sometimes, which kind of explains why we often resist.
It does. And the sobering part is thinking about the consequences of not doing it this way. Every minute you spend practicing badly, you're actually moving further away from real excellence. Every, blind attempt, every repetition without correction, every day you avoid objective feedback.
Yeah.
It makes it less likely you'll ever truly master anything. Time doesn't automatically make things better. Sometimes it just entrenches bad habits.
Right. So just as you grasp this idea of deliberate practice, you run into maybe the biggest obstacle. And not the conscious you're listening right now necessarily, but the part that subtly trips you up when no one's looking. The voice that says, oh, I already know this, before you really do. Or the part that collects books like trophies but never actually applies anything from page one. That part that confuses gathering information with actually changing how you operate.
Yeah, that's one of the sneakiest traps, isn't it? What we might call unapplied knowledge. I mean, think about it. Learning itself can become almost addictive. It can be a really sophisticated way to procrastinate, actually, a way to hide from the risk of messing up in public. As long as you're just thinking about it, reading about it, you feel safe, in control. But the second you try to do it, boom, you're vulnerable. You might fail. And that's why so many people prefer to just keep consuming rather than take that first messy, real step.
And this leads to that situation where someone can be like brilliant on paper, but totally mediocre when it comes to actually doing the thing. Because the world doesn't really reward theories, does it? It rewards results. If you want to spot someone unlikely to reach mastery, often it's the person with strong opinions on everything, but very little concrete evidence to show for it. They know it all, but can't demonstrate it.
Precisely. And that's why the really transformative part of learning, it doesn't actually start when you crack open the book. It starts when you close it and you begin to apply what you think you know. Yeah. Because until you test it in the real world, everything you've learned is just, well, it's a hypothesis, right?
Right.
And living life based only on untested hypotheses. It's like having a great map but refusing to leave your house.
Which brings us right back to the ego, doesn't it? Deliberate practice, as the research stresses, it demands brutal humility. It means facing the possibility that maybe you don't know as much as you thought. That even with all the theory, your first attempts might be clumsy, slow, just not good.
And the ego hates that. It wants to hide mistakes, explain them away, pretend they didn't happen. But mastery, it's literally built on a foundation of errors. Errors that have been looked at, pulled apart, documented.
So to err is human, sure. But for mastery, erring and learning from it seems mandatory.
And it makes you wonder, why are we so afraid of errors? For many of us, maybe growing up, mistakes meant punishment or shame or humiliation. So we got conditioned to see failure as the end, as defeat. And that fear, it can become a prison. It stops us from doing the one thing necessary for growth, which is failing with intention, which isn't just random failure. It's failing in a controlled way where you can analyze it, correct it, learn from it, failing with data.
And then there's this other thing, cognitive paralysis. Just thinking, but never actually doing. It feels productive, right? All that mental activity. Like you're making progress just by planning or analyzing. But it's like staring intently at that map, planning the perfect route, but never taking the first step out the door.
Yeah. And there's often a mechanism behind that called simulation bias. Your brain is pretty amazing. It can simulate doing something and then give you a little hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, almost as if you'd actually done it. Yeah. So you imagine practicing that skill or nailing that presentation and you get a tiny reward. You feel good, but here's the trap. Because you felt good, the motivation to actually do the thing can decrease. You got the reward without the effort, which is why clarity almost never comes before you act. It comes after. You have to act first, then you get clarity.
Okay, so we've got these internal saboteurs, ego, fear, this simulation thing. How do we fight back? This brings us to what you called the mirror of error. What is that exactly?
It's the idea that your brain can only really improve if you give it a clear, honest reflection of its mistakes. So this means things like actually recording yourself, if it's a physical skill or speaking or anything performance-based, meticulously analyzing what you did, actively seeking out direct, even uncomfortable feedback, and constantly comparing what you're doing to a reliable, objective reference point.
Yeah, that sounds like it could hurt the ego a bit.
It absolutely can. It stings, but that sting, that discomfort, that's where the transformation happens.
Which probably explains why the best performers rarely train entirely alone.
Right. Exactly. Think about elite athletes, musicians, speakers. They constantly record themselves. They seek out coaches. They pay people, sometimes a lot of money, specifically to tell them the hard truth because they understand something fundamental. Your own perception. It's probably the worst coach you could possibly have. Your mind naturally wants to smooth over the rough edges, minimize the flaws, make excuses. It makes you feel better, sure, but it kills your progress.
So the path to mastery involves being willing to, well, look a bit ridiculous at first. To make those public mistakes, own the awkwardness.
Pretty much. As one source put it, to be a master, you first have to be an idiot and own it with guts.
Right.
If you're too afraid of that initial phase of looking foolish, of making very visible errors, you'll probably never get past it.
And you also mentioned the physiology of learning, how our body impacts our brain.
Yeah, this is critical and often overlooked. How you sit, how you breathe, even tiny habits in your posture. They all directly affect your brain's ability to learn. Think of your body as the brain's antenna. If you're slumped, breathing shallowly, tense, you're sending fuzzy signals, it makes focus incredibly difficult. What people often label as lack of concentration or discipline. Sometimes it's literally just a body that's not in a state conducive to learning. Real learning is a total state, mind, body, emotion, all aligned.
Okay, and what about motivation? You touched on this. Learning to escape yourself versus learning out of curiosity.
Right. Many people chase mastery because they feel lacking. They think, if I just master this one thing, then I'll finally feel worthy or validated. But motivation born from that kind of place, from self-rejection, it rarely sustains genuine long-term mastery.
So what does?
What the research suggests is that true, deep mastery usually springs from genuine curiosity, from a sense of play almost, innate hunger to explore and understand, not from shame or needing someone else's approval.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. So for someone listening right now, what's like one immediate actionable thing they can do?
Okay, simple challenge. In the next 24 hours, pick just one small thing you've maybe learned about here or something you're trying to learn elsewhere and just apply it. Don't aim for perfection, not at all. Do it badly, if necessary, but do it. Then take a moment, analyze what happened, what went right, what went wrong, correct something small for next time, maybe jot down one observation, and then repeat.
That's the formula, huh? Simple steps, but requires that brutal consistency and honesty.
Exactly. Simple but brutal.
Now, here's something maybe counterintuitive.
Yeah.
What does mastering something actually feel like? Because it's probably not like the movies, right?
Definitely not the triumphant music montage, no. Often the process of deep practice is actually, well, repetitive. It can feel monotonous, very technical, sometimes even a bit cold.
Really? Not epic.
The feeling of mastery itself often isn't some big fireworks moment. It's more like waking up one day and realizing you don't have to consciously think about it anymore. You don't doubt yourself in the same way. You don't have to force it. Your actions just flow. Ideas connect effortlessly. What used to take huge mental effort now feels kind of intuitive.
And that quiet fluency, that's the sign the system worked.
Precisely. It wasn't necessarily you who magically transformed into a genius. It was your system for learning and practicing that became solid. And when your system is strong, this whole idea of innate talent starts to seem almost irrelevant, because mastery really demands that you fall in love with the process more than the immediate outcome.
And paradoxically, for people really on that path, the biggest enemy often isn't failure anymore.
Right. Is boredom.
Boredom.
Yeah.
Why?
Because once you get really good, progress becomes much quieter. Almost invisible sometimes. There aren't those big, obvious leaps anymore. It's just tiny refinements, subtle adjustments, the quiet satisfaction of going deeper. And that can feel boring if you're addicted to the drama of big mistakes and big breakthroughs.
So wrapping this up, it sounds like you don't necessarily need more hours in the day or some kind of innate gift. What you really need is the courage to challenge your ego and the commitment to completely redesign how you practice. So if there's one core takeaway from this whole deep dive, it's this: what you don't transform, you inevitably repeat, and what you don't apply ultimately rots.
Yeah. And maybe the provocative question to leave you with today is this: are you actually willing to become someone who will never learn like you did before? Are you ready for that shift?
You've got to embrace that discomfort. Lean into that daily, maybe unseen, battle against your own because time really only rewards those who dare to force stagnation. And if you choose to apply these, you won't just be mass starting down the path. When that happens, honestly, the world has no idea